Rajesh started his career as an entrepreneur, setting up own ventures in media and advertising, education, textiles and tea. Over the years, he has worked in media, private equity, consulting, research and analytics, e-commerce, ITES industries, helping companies like Times Group, CRISIL, S&P, Kotak Mahindra, NIIT, and so on to set up new, innovative and high-growth businesses. He was instrumental in building up India's first online information services and internet business, www.indiainformer.com in 1998, much before the dot-com boom. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Rajesh Sharma. Sir.
Okay, good afternoon and welcome. And I'm sure all of you would know how big the mobile opportunity is, and which is the reason why we are all here today, right? So I'll not go too much into what you already know. I'll just briefly cover that because all of us know that it's a much bigger opportunity. You know, it's maybe 10x or 100x of the PC internet opportunity, the mobile business opportunity in India. The important thing from an entrepreneur's view is that all of us know that, okay, the opportunity is big, but how is it that we can make it big, right? So what is it that an entrepreneur should do to make it big, right? Like in 2000 or 99, everybody knew internet is a big opportunity, right? And so many stats and all were being spoken about, right? But what was important even at that point of time was that are you able to make it big, right? So if everybody knows this opportunity here, so what can we as entrepreneurs do to successfully capture that opportunity, right? And that is what determines success, and that is what even the investors are looking forward to, right? So every investor knows that yes, this market is huge. It is the market of future. They are looking at players who can translate this huge opportunity into action, right? And so which is where you need to think a little beyond the product innovations that you can do, a little beyond the consumer trends, right? And you have to dwell deeper into how do you build your fundamentally stronger business. So that is what I'll try to cover, some thumb rules of building a business successfully in not only in this sector, but in all sectors, but specifically applying to the mobile sector. Okay. So as I said, some facts we all know. And those facts are like 100 million internet users, out of which 60% consume internet on mobiles. Okay, so this is the mobile opportunity in India. Right? 900 million mobile users in India as against 100 million internet users, right? So obviously, it's a far bigger opportunity than PC internet. And why this opportunity is big is because the difference between PC and mobile is that PCs are for geeks, okay? And it's a very critical and crucial difference. PCs are for geeks and mobiles are for common people, right? As you would have seen that, let's say even somebody who's very rich but is above a certain age doesn't prefer to use PC, right? But uses mobile. Everybody from your rickshawala to the CEO to the promoter, everybody uses mobile, right? So there was an entry barrier with PC, which was basically, you know, that people found it too complicated to use, or they thought you need to be too educated to use. That barrier has been broken away by mobile. So the importance of that is that your father will also use the mobile, your mother will also use the mobile, right? And not only your kid will use the mobile or you will use the mobile. So which was the entry barrier in case of PC? So this point is important because this leads to a much widespread opportunity for utilization of mobile services, right, as compared to the PC services. And this also translates into you seeing that in tier 2, tier 3, people use mobile much more and they consume far more amount of content, right, on mobile phones, which was not happening through PCs, okay. Also the reason why they use mobile phones so much for entertainment and all is because in tier 2, tier 3 population levels or city levels, right, they do not have access to better devices, right? So mobile is the best device. So mobile for them is upgradation in life, right? You sitting here may think that, okay, mobile is coming down from LCD, 46-inch LCDs, but for them, mobile is an upgradation in life, and that is why you see huge amount of entertainment content being consumed on the mobiles, which again was not the case with PCs, right? The other very, very important point to note here is that mobile users have far more higher tendency to pay than what PC users have. Okay. Why so? Because when internet started on PCs, right, everything was free or was supposed to be free. And whosoever started using or consuming internet through PCs has got used to the idea of consuming free. But in mobile, the very first step which happened on a paid basis. So on mobiles, everything from the beginning was paid, right? So mobile user is expecting that he will need to pay, whereas PC user is expecting that he'll get everything free, right? And that is a big factor which people in the mobile industry should recognize and use it to their advantage, right? So the paying capability or the willingness to pay is far higher on mobiles than on PC. And in fact, the mobile wallet opportunity is the big opportunity. I'm told it's so big in Africa that even bribes to traffic policemen are paid through mobiles, in Kenya, countries like Kenya, right? So it has reached those levels. So imagine in India, we've not even touched a fraction of that, right? So that's the opportunity. And it leads to, as you all would know, gradually the internet usage increasing much more through mobiles than through the PCs, right? But there are some challenges also. And the biggest challenge is the distribution or cost of acquiring customers, which is very high, okay? Why it is very high? Because a lot of mobile service operators are dependent on the telecom operators, okay? So their distribution channel is through telecom operators. And which is where they get marginalized, okay? Because telecom operators have some sort of a monopoly over the consumer base, right? As a result of which, how do I get money from my consumer becomes very challenging, because almost 70% of your revenue is taken up by the mobile operator, right? And even the remaining revenue which comes to you, it takes time, in the operational cycles, it takes time. It can take a couple of months to come, right? So revenues are getting marginalized. So there's huge scope for you to generate revenues, but revenues are getting marginalized because you're depending on the operator, right? So your existence, your visibility, your revenues, everything is dependent on the monopoly of the operator. And that's a big challenge in the mobile space today, right? So how do we break that challenge is something that needs to be worked upon. The other problem with mobile has been that the data charges for mobiles have traditionally been higher than the data charges for the internet users, right? That is coming down now. You see every day announcements being made by Vodafone and all that we've slashed the 3G rates by 80% and all. So we hope in future that will come down, but till now that was a constraint, okay? E-commerce, which is a big opportunity. E-commerce becomes a little difficult on mobiles because from a format perspective, mobiles are not very convenient, when you need to type in that OTP password and all that stuff, or internet banking or through credit cards. So mobile format is not very convenient to be able to do that. PCs is far more convenient to be able to do that, right? So mobile people need to figure out ways to overcome that challenge also, because e-commerce, which is a big opportunity, otherwise will not effectively translate into action on mobiles if the formatting is not right. The other challenge is that only 7% of mobile phones currently are smartphones, right? Then the next challenge is that because mobile phones have multiple operating systems, unlike PCs, PCs you have Windows or you have Mac, right? But on mobile phones, because you have multiple operating systems, it becomes difficult for the app makers to make an app which will work across platforms, right? That's from a product perspective the challenge. Content acquisition is a challenge, I'm sure in the earlier sessions that has been covered, right? So these are the challenges and the opportunities in the mobile space. So some key insights. PC internet is ads supported economy. Okay, there's a fundamental difference between PC internet and mobile internet. Mobile is revenue based economy. Okay, it's a very crucial difference to understand. The way internet on PCs has evolved over the years, it is still largely dependent upon advertising revenues, right? But you guys have the opportunity of generating cash revenues, whether it is through a mobile wallet, whether it is through apps which you have to buy, whether it is through content that you have to buy. But you have a huge, huge real revenue opportunity in front of you, okay, which internet through PCs doesn't have. So we discussed earlier that currently the problem is that you are dependent on the mobile operators, okay, because they give you the right of way, right? Which is why it is very essential to create your own brand so that you are not dependent on the mobile operators, right? That dependency has to go if the business has to stand on its own feet, okay? Because otherwise, you're just a service provider to them, okay? You're just like a BPO who doesn't have its own front-ending product, right? And that makes the business very risky and very volatile on the whims of the operator, right? So you have to break that and create your own brand so that people say that, okay, I want that mobile app or I want that mobile service, and I'll go and directly download it on my phone. I will not wait for my operator to give me a set of apps on my phone. I'll download. So the demand for your mobile application has to come through the consumer, and which is where brand plays an important role. Look at the spends that operators are spending on building their brands. Look at the spends on advertising that device makers are spending on building their brands, right? So their monopolies are a function of the brand that they have created, and that is why they are able to squeeze you, right? So if you have to stand independently, you have to fight against those kind of brand building efforts by the operators, right? And the device makers. So in terms of visualization that what kind of brands you need to build in order to acquire the consumer independently and not through a pipe provided by the operator, those are the kind of brand recalls that you need to build for your business, okay? Even Google and YouTube, if you realize, these days have started advertising very heavily because they've also realized that they have to build their own direct access to the consumer and not through the operators, right? Some people say that word of mouth publicity can help us build the brand, okay? And we've also built our brand and organization so far through word of mouth, right? As I earlier said, that mobile is for non-geeky users, okay? And PC internet is for geeky users, right? And which is why the mobile opportunity is so large. So mouth-to-mouth publicity works very well amongst the geeky audiences, right? Because they're connected. They're connected through BlackBerry Messenger, they're connected through chat boards and all, right? They are a connected community. In that community, yes, word of mouth works very well because one person tells others. But when you are looking at an opportunity which is far beyond those geeks, right? Then how can you rely only on word of mouth publicity, right? And which is why possibly today the reason that Google and YouTube are also trying to build their brands through advertising, right? So I'm sure these things mostly you would have known. So setting up a mobile business is easy, right? There are no entry barriers. All you need to get is to get a tech team together, get a product idea together, and you are running, right? So that's not a problem. So what is the problem? The problem is sustaining, running, and growing, okay? So you can set up a business today, but would your business be around even after 5-6 years is the main thing that you have to look after, is the thing that the investor looks after. So when you approach an investor with your business plans for funding, right? So he knows that everybody today, these days, is getting on the mobile bandwagon and everybody's creating apps and business models and all. So what they're looking forward is that who will be the winner amongst all these, amongst the thousands of businesses being launched, who will be the winner, right? So which is why it is very important to build a sustainable business, okay? So which means, are you another flash in the mobile business hype pan, or are you in it for the long run, right? So that is the important question which I think as entrepreneurs you have to look at, right? So trends, opportunities, numbers, figures, innovations, everything is fine. Obviously it needs to be there because ultimately the consumer is buying into that. But as an entrepreneur, you have to look at your business beyond that how do I build a sustainable business? So the first step towards building a sustainable business, okay, which is what your private equity investors will also evaluate when they look at your business plans, right? So the first step is that you must realize that a mobile business, after all, also is a business. So it needs to be run like a business, right? So let us look at some of the thumb rules of building a successful mobile business. These thumb rules are applicable for any other industry also, right? But specifically in the mobile industry, because you're currently going through a very high energy phase where chances are that, a lot of things can fizzle out. So it's important to learn these rules. So thumb rule number 1, vision, vision, vision. Okay. A lot of times we get business plans from promoters, right, where the vision is not large enough, it's not scalable enough, right? There's something interesting that they might do today, but then what are they going to do 1 year down the line? What are they going to do 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line? So whenever a private equity investor looks at a business plan or a promoter, that is the first thing, whether it is articulated or unarticulated, right? The first thing he wants to see is how scalable and grand is your vision. Okay? So remember, Dubai, right, was built in a desert, right? It had no oil resources, unlike its neighboring countries, which were very rich in oil, right? But still, they became a global city because one man had the vision of making it a global city, right? So he only built vision, so they didn't have any money, so they only built this vision. And when the vision was so grand and so attractive, everybody else across the world was tempted to partner that vision, right? So which is why I say that the first step in your business is that go back to your drawing board and see that whether you are working on an exciting enough proposition, exciting enough vision, which is not only relevant today, okay, you might have got a very excellent idea for today, but is it a good enough vision to build a scalable business for 5 years, for the next 6 years, or maybe even longer, right? So that is very important. Otherwise, at some stage, you'll just completely fizzle out, right? So rule number 1, have a vision which is large and which is scalable. Scalable vision is very important. Thumb rule number 2, something which I called as the EAT model. Okay, so what do we mean by EAT? It's not burger or pizzas that I'm referring to. So EAT means experiences, aspirations, and transactions. Okay. Now this is very important. A lot of times, because entrepreneurs are very passionate about their business, the domain, they're more passionate about the operations, right? They don't know what are the right variables to track to see whether their business is going in the right direction or not in the right direction. Or they don't even know like, what you mean when you say take the business in the right direction. What do you mean? What is it that we should monitor? Okay? Or how should we get all the factors together in place to make it work well? Okay? So I've tried to put that in a framework which I'm calling as EAT. Experiences, aspirations, and transactions. At the center of EAT is A, which is aspiration, which is the proposition, which is the vision. Okay? So what is it that would aspire people to buy into you? Okay, that is the core of your business. So when you are starting the business, look into it. That what is it that people will get attracted to? What is the unique proposition that I have to offer? Right. So which in some sense could mean the product that you are creating, the proposition that you are creating. Right. So that has to be very importantly thought through. Am I just doing what others are doing? I'm just another me too in the game, or is it like some unique proposition that I have? So once you've got that unique proposition, once you got that brilliant idea which nobody else has, let's say when Facebook was started, they would have got on that, oh, nobody else has a social networking platform, let's start this, right? So that's our great aspirational thing. Now you have a great product, but how good is that great product if nobody knows about it, right? So you can be having diamonds in your house, but if nobody knows about it, then you are not rich enough, right? So experiences. So people should be able to experience your good product, okay? So the tracking variable becomes, now that I have a good product, how do I ensure that maximum number of people experience my product or come to know about my product? Because unless they come to know about your product, nobody will be able to buy it, right? So that knowing can happen through advertising, brand building, PR, mouth of word, whatever. But maximum number of your target audiences, as an entrepreneur, you should try that they should at least know you, okay? So that's your duty as an entrepreneur, to take your product to them, whether you do it through activation, ground events, whatever. But getting the people to know your product is very important. So you got a great product, people know about it. Now what happens? Now they are interested because you got a good product, right? So they want to buy, they want to subscribe, they want to transact, right? So, which is where T comes in, transactions. So the transactions flow, the method to make transactions should be simple enough that most people are able to transact seamlessly, okay? If they are not able to transact, so it's like, a lot of companies advertise their products when consumers get very interested, but when they go to the store to buy it, the product is just not there, right? So which in fact impacts negatively rather than positively, right? So you have to ensure that your transaction process is very simple. I get interested in buying something on the net, I go and log in and say buy, then there's a huge long registration process in which you are taking necessary, unnecessary details, and I just get bored and then don't transact, right? So transactions has to be very simple, right? So that is the flow. So if we see some EAT successes. So for example, if you take up any company or any product that you take and evaluate it on the EAT platform, you'll get immediately the reasons for its failure or non-failure. So for example, Coca-Cola is a great successful company because it meets all the parameters of EAT, right? It has got an aspirational product, it advertises and builds its brand so that everybody experiences it, right? And transaction process has been made so simple that even if you go to a nearby pan wala, you'll get the Coke, right? So that's what it makes it successful. EAT failures, the last .com burst, okay? You had great aspirations, you had experiences because you had built the brands, but there were no transactions, right? And which is why it doomed, right? So when you are building the business, look at whether your business has all the 3 EAT variables in place or not, right? Thumb rule number 3 pillars of business strategy. Most of the entrepreneurs look only at the first pillar, which is the real business, okay? I know how to make mobile applications. I don't know anything beyond that. I'm great at building mobile applications, right? I understand the consumer, I understand his needs, and I build great mobile applications, right? But what a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in the startup stage, don't realize is that not only connecting with consumers is important, not only selling products is important, selling your company is also important because you're going to need funds, okay? And in order to raise funds, you have to be structured to be able to tap into the capital markets, right? If you're not able to raise funds, which means that your company is not sellable from a financial perspective, then howsoever good your idea may be, it will not get funded and hence you'll die an early death, right? So you need to understand that apart from business excellence, you also need to build in capital markets excellence, right? And third, because these days everybody is starting a mobile business, funding is available, it's coming easy, people are starting and all. So the consumer is confused, right? So whom does he go to, right? So you need to be excellent at creating a winning brand also, right? So only a winning brand will help you sell what you're producing, right? So combination of these 3, an entrepreneur has to keep in mind for building business and not just the first pillar, which is the real business. Thumb rule number 4, target all your stakeholders and not only your consumers. So most of the entrepreneurs get into this problem that, they think only consumer acquisition is going to make me work, right? But in the end, you are building a profitable company. Your target is to build a profitable company, right? So consumers will bring you revenues, but all your other supply side factors will determine your cost. If your cost goes so high that you become unprofitable, then you'll vanish, right? So which is why don't only target at how do I get consumers, how I serve consumers. Also look at how do I get my investors, how do I get my employees, how do I get the regulators on my side, right? All the supply side factors, because if the supply side factors perceive you positively, like if your vendor perceives you positively, he will give you credit for 45 days instead of 30 days or 15 days, right? And that adds to your bottom line. So very important to build a business which is profitable, and it can be profitable if you look at the supply side also and not only at the demand side, right? So look at all your stakeholders. Thumb rule number 5, the winning imperative, as I said, because so many businesses these days will get built in the mobile space, right? And the problem of that telecom operators controls most of the pipes, routes to access. So you have to create brand, right? Which consumers say, I want, and you are not dependent on anybody else to pass on the consumers to you. Because even when private equity investors are valuing you, they are looking at how does a consumer connect with your business, okay? How much does the consumer directly want your business, okay? If the business is a derived business, then it's like any other BPO or KPO business, right? Which will get valuation only according to that. But if you have the end consumer connect, then the kind of valuation that you'll get or the kind of things that you'll be able to do in future in your business will be completely different. So the $1 million question that, okay, but brand building is expensive, so where do I get the funds to build brand from, right? So which is where we have this idea, we say Times of Ideas. And that idea is brand capital, which is what I represent at Times Group, right? So brand capital provides funding for brand building, and over the last 6 years, we funded more than about 450 companies for their brand building expenses, and we've deployed something close to about 7,000 crores doing that, okay? So as a result of, and we make available all our media properties for brand building. And these are some of the success stories that we've created in the past, right? So whether it is groups like Pantaloon, Kishore Biani Future Group, Thyrocare, Gitanjali, Videocon, So these are all the brands that we funded in 6 years and helped them grow, right? Thank you so much and wish you all the best in your mobile business building initiatives. Thanks.